Today, we are diving into something really complex, something that's often hidden away. The relationship between people who are both autistic and have ADHD, that's AuDHD, and parents with narcissistic traits. And we're not pulling this from some dry academic paper. This is all based on a powerful, raw conversation that just exploded online, revealing a struggle that so many people are facing, often completely in silence. And it all kicked off with this one sentence, just a simple, vulnerable question posted online that, wow, it just hit a nerve. This one feeling unlocked a total floodgate of shared experiences, survival strategies, and a real sense of connection for people who honestly thought they were the only ones going through this. So where did this happen? It was on Reddit, in a community called Autistic with ADHD, a place built specifically for people to talk about these unique, overlapping experiences. And what happened next was just incredible proof of what happens when you find your people. Hundreds of replies started pouring in, and every single one was like another piece of this giant shared puzzle. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow the thread of that conversation. We'll look at the real-life strategies people are actually using to cope. We'll dig into the psychology that makes this whole dynamic so incredibly difficult. And then we'll look at the actual steps people are taking to get their lives back and heal. Okay, first things first, let's just listen. Let's hear from the community itself. Because, a lot of the time, the very first step to getting better is that powerful moment when you realize, wait a minute, I'm not alone in this. What was so amazing is that the responses showed this whole range of survival tactics. It wasn't like there was one right answer. It was more like a collection of personal choices, each one carefully tailored to what a person could handle and what their situation looked like. Let's take a look at a few of them. For some people, the only path to actually being safe is a clean break, complete separation. This comment from user Amarg19 really gets to the heart of it. It's an incredibly hard decision, for sure, but it also shows the huge relief that can come from deciding to go no contact. It's basically choosing to just opt out of a game you can't win. Now, this is where it gets really nuanced and interesting. Low contact isn't about cutting ties, it's about managing them very, very carefully. I love this comment from Bonobo because it lays out the strategy so well. You only engage when you feel strong enough, you bring backup who sees what's really going on, and you constantly have to remind yourself, not my circus, not my monkeys. And then there's this approach, building your own walls. This user explains that they basically had to create the structure and the rules that their parent just couldn't or wouldn't. It's this powerful act of saying, okay, I see you for who you are. I accept your limitations, but I am going to build the guardrails I need to protect myself.
And finally, there's the whole complicated mess of grief. So many people pointed this out. You're not just grieving the person who is gone from your life. You are also grieving the parent, the relationship that you always wanted and deserved but never got. And that is a really confusing and layered kind of loss.
Hearing all these experiences, it just begs the question, right? Why? Why is this pattern so common and so incredibly painful? To get that, we need to zoom out and look at a couple of key psychological ideas that kept popping up over and over again in the conversation. The first one is a word you've probably heard a lot, gaslighting. It actually comes from this old play where a husband keeps dimming the gas lights in the house, but tells his wife she's imagining it, trying to make her think she's losing her mind. In a relationship, it's that constant drip, drip, drip of, you're being too sensitive, that never happened, or it's all in your head, until you start to believe it. And gaslighting often goes hand in hand with this next idea, the family scapegoat. In these kinds of family systems, one person, often a child, gets unofficially chosen to carry all the blame, all the shame for everything that goes wrong. It lets the parent offload all their own negative feelings onto someone else so they can maintain their own perfect image. So, what makes a child the target for this awful role? Well, what's so fascinating and honestly so tragic is that according to psychotherapist Jay Reed, it's often their strengths, a really strong sense of justice, being super empathetic, being able to see what's really going on, and being resilient enough to take the abuse. All these amazing qualities paradoxically make them the perfect person to carry the family's baggage. Okay, so we've got the personal stories, and we've got the psychological framework. Now, let's put it all together. What happens when you add AuDHD into this already toxic mix? Why might neurodivergent folks be especially vulnerable here?
Well, according to both experts and the people living it, a few key things are at play. First, alexithymia, which is having a hard time knowing what you're feeling. That makes you vulnerable to someone else telling you how you feel. Then there's hyperempathy, where you literally absorb other people's emotions. And finally, that powerful innate sense of justice that so many autistic people have. It makes you want to correct the lies of gaslighting, which just sucks you deeper into the conflict.
And being in this constant state of conflict and confusion and just feeling invalidated, it takes a massive toll. It causes trauma. And the data on this is, well, it's pretty stark. A study from the National Institutes of Health found that autistic adults are more than 4 times as likely to be diagnosed with PTSD. And we're not just talking about one single major event. This often comes from a lifetime of what you might call small TE traumas, chronic bullying, rejection, and exactly the kind of emotional abuse we're discussing.
And here's where it gets even more complicated and, frankly, kind of scary. The NIH source talks about something called diagnostic overshadowing. This is when the actual symptoms of trauma, like being jumpy, having social anxiety, or emotional meltdowns, get written off as just part of their autism. The real problem, the trauma itself, gets completely missed, and it goes untreated.
But here's the most important part of this whole thing. The online conversation didn't just get stuck in the problem, it was overwhelmingly about solutions. So for this last part, let's look at the concrete, real-world advice for healing and taking back control that came from the community and experts. One user, Admiral Carter, shared this incredible practical roadmap for anyone planning to leave a controlling situation. It's not just about emotional stuff. It's about practical, real-world independence. Getting your own documents, separating your bank accounts. These are the tangible moves that actually create freedom. You know, when your reality is constantly being twisted, creating your own unchangeable record is an act of defiance. This tip is a super powerful tool against gaslighting. Just writing down what happened, when it happened, it becomes your anchor. It lets you see the patterns of manipulation with your own eyes over time. When you really look at all these strategies, from going no contact to keeping a journal, they all point to something bigger. This whole journey, it isn't just about running away from something bad. It's a journey toward something good. Getting back to the person you were always meant to be, the one who got buried under years of someone else's needs and confusion. And that really brings us full circle. The stories and the wisdom shared in this one corner of the internet show a clear path from feeling lost to finding clarity. It's a path of believing yourself, setting boundaries, and finding your people. So we'll leave you with this to think about. Whether this story sounds familiar to you or not, what is one small step, just one, that you can take today to start reclaiming your own story?